I think sometimes that we inhabit a fantasy of geological time, that we know too much and understand too little. This butte was a headland in the last great ice age. These hills preserved life, animals, flowers, and trees that were extinct in the grinding white world that surrounded them down there. It's easier to imagine oneself a bear or a wolf or a mountain lion looking out from here, closer somehow to the elements and to the dizzying lengths of time and change this place was witness to. From that perspective, the human era is no more and no less than an ice age. Far below, we hear Wordsworth's still sad music of humanity, and Hamlet's thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to are just part of that music. Up here, it seems quite natural to say, as the poet Carl Shapiro did, and cancer blooms as simple as a flower. This device scares the hell out of me. Devised in 1952 by Dr. Sylvia Fedoruk, it's a weapon of destruction designed to save lives. If nothing else, there's an irony in that. Radiation, we all know, causes cancer. Potent chemicals cause cancer too. They've been the primary tools, though, in the treatment of cancer. I guess medical science has often worked that way. Assaulted a disease by poisoning the host body within an inch of its own life, invading a country, as it were, maybe laying it waste to free it from tyranny.
For 30 years, I treated people with cancer as a physician. When I was diagnosed with cancer last July, I developed over a period of time a total different perception of what it means to get cancer. It's scary. You begin to think about all the things you did in your life, and has it been a worthwhile life? Have you contributed? Had you made a difference? Because you can't help, when you hear the word cancer, of equating that with dying. I think the first reaction is, no, this can't really be happening to me. This isn't the time for me to get sick or something like that. So when it comes, it's always a surprise, and it's a shock. What is cancer then? Well, we know that it's due to a genetic aberration. There's a mutation that has taken place. So what's happened is the cells lose their ability to die off naturally, which is called apoptosis. And when they do that, they keep on growing. And that's what a cancer is, uncontrolled growth that occurs in a normal part of your body. I had a lump under my arm. I discovered it. And because I'm thinking about cancer all the time, I said, oh my gosh, I think I probably have a lymphoma, which is exactly what I had. Everything they say about chemotherapy, that it's a very difficult process to go through, is true. I wasn't afraid of the cancer. I was afraid of the treatment. For me, the first 2 of my 6 cycles of treatment, I kept working here. I was right in my office every day. I had no complications. I wasn't nauseated. I hardly noticed anything until my 3rd cycle, and then it seemed everything went wrong. I remember coming back to bed, and I'd closed all the curtains, so I'm lying in a dark room all alone, and I just lost it. I just burst into tears. I was at the bottom. And that's when I said, oh no, now I've been teaching about hope all these years. I've got to learn some of that myself. When we try and select people to go into the medical profession or nursing profession, whatever, we hope they have empathy and truly have something beyond themselves to give. They have to want to help people. They have to like people. Being a doctor is not a technical thing. It's a very emotional thing, and you have to invest a lot of yourself into that. And if you can't give it all away, you're never going to be effective. If you were a patient, I'd be holding your hand. I just do that intuitively because I need that physical contact and the eye contact and communication. What I try and do is say, I'm here to help you. I don't want to impose anything on you. You're going to make the decisions. My job is to inform you. But you also have to feel deeply that you're there to help that person. Just losing your position, your self identity, is a horrible thing to watch as people go through this journey. So some of the strategies that I would talk to my patients about was, you know, we know that we're not going to cure you. It's very likely you will die if that is the circumstance. Think about writing something about yourself that you would want your children to know about you, that they don't know about already. You're their mom, but they might not know something you're proud of what you did. You helped somebody somewhere. It could have been when you were in high school. It could have been in university. It could have been on the job. Something you'd like them to know about you. And write it down to leave a legacy so that they can have something. It's amazing how that engenders hope in people.
Long before our kind of medicine, people understood disease as the presence of spirits. Magical medicine drove or coaxed the malicious spirit out of the body. It might be captured by the heartbeat dance of a drum or the hypnotic power of a chant. It might be caught in a spirit catcher. It had to be talked to. Anthony Burgess, who was himself a cancer survivor, in a novel called The End of the World News, has Sigmund Freud having a dialogue with the cancer that is eating away at his jaw. And 1/3 of the book is this dialogue, in fact. Does that make any sense to you?
Yes, I can understand that, although personally I never saw cancer as a character. I never felt that cancer was a personality inside my body that was something I could engage in a dialogue with. Partly because when you have prostate cancer, you feel fit as a fiddle. I mean, there's nothing wrong with you. And that's the hard part to believe. When the doctor tells you have cancer, you say, that can't be. That can't be because I've never felt better. And you have to come to terms with the diagnosis and the technology of the diagnosis in order to accept it. That is a much different case from Sigmund Freud and cancer in the jaw, because you can see it, you can feel it, and you're in major pain every day. In my case, it felt like something much more subterranean, almost unknown, that if it hadn't been for some medical detective work, I wouldn't have known about until perhaps it became a character larger than me.
Yeah. I found out about you having had an experience with cancer because you wrote a column about it. I think it was a wonderful column. But I also was dealing not so much with what you expressed so forcefully and lucidly, but the fact that you chose to write about it, which in a sense was exposing yourself in what is a very private experience. And I wonder why you did.
Because men are so afraid of prostate cancer, they don't want to talk about it. And you don't really find out about that until you're sitting in the waiting room with another guy in the same situation, and you're talking about your PSA numbers and all the other technical information about, do I have it or do I not? And you realize we're both scared stiff, and everybody has got a lot of difficult decisions to make about what treatment to take, at what point do I get it. And a lot of guys are operating in the dark and have no idea what to do and are afraid to ask about it.
Was the common denominator of fear? Was it ignorance? Are they the same thing?
I think they're the same thing. I think fear and ignorance both play a role because we fear the unknown. And because it's a confusing disease with a myriad of choices, people don't really know where to turn. And I think they find some solace in others' personal experience. As a journalist, naturally, I think knowledge is power. And I think a big problem with most guys in this situation is they feel powerless. They don't know what the disease is all about. They know less than the medical profession knows. Some medical professionals are more forthcoming than others, and you feel more like a consumer than an advocate. And part of my motivation in talking about the experience is to encourage men to become advocates for their own health. I think you've got to take the time to find out about the disease in order for you to be able to ask the questions you need to ask in order to make the right choices.
You've understandably insisted that prostate cancer is its own particular problem, and you made the distinction that you don't feel as if you're sick. But do you see a commonality between all cancers? I mean, there's this feeling that there's something like an epidemic going on, caused by whatever.
Yeah, and there does seem to be. Most often, if you're going to get prostate cancer, it has been called the old man's disease, because you don't get it till you're older. As I said, I got it when I was 49. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. I got it. My oldest brother is 11 years older than me. He's still fine. So one of my first reactions was, oh my God, I've got it, Dad had it. I got to tell my brothers so they know to watch for it too. So I told one of my brothers, still home on the ranch, and we were exchanging tales, and he tells me of a cowboy over the next valley who he had just had it. And his neighbor told him, there's 2 kinds of men in this world, those who have had prostate cancer and those who are going to get it. And that's probably an unduly pessimistic view.
Yes, I think one of the cameramen just fainted.
Well, singing this song, and I hope it don't frighten you, wrote it in the hopes that it would enlighten you. Tell you straight out so you all understand, it's about the mysterious prostate gland. It's somewhere down in your guts. Well, I guess this song's mainly for the fellas, from the pale little shrimps to the great big gorillas. Take care of your pros, or the next thing you know, when you get old, you won't be able to go or come stationary in a urological manner of speaking. Well, now alcohol's bad and so is caffeine. Those in the know tell you what I mean. If you're at all concerned about the shape you're in, the best thing for you is the F vitamin. Now all you health nuts out there know that vitamin F is found in wheat germ oil, safflower seeds, safflower seed oil, beef, liver, and brains. But most of all, in pumpkin seeds. Well, there it is, the old pumpkin eater syndrome. In every myth, a little truth. So eat pumpkin seeds, boys, eaten by the leader. Make her Peter sweeter for you, sweetie, when you meet her. Eat pumpkin seeds, boys, eaten by the leader. Make her Peter sweeter for you, sweetie, when you meet her. I think Leonard Cohen wrote that when he was in grade 8. I remember when I was in grade 8, a nurse came to the school one afternoon, knocked on the classroom door, and all the girls stood up and blushed and left the room. They were going out for a special talk and a film, and us guys had to stay behind, but we knew what was going on. We knew all about it. We just sat there feeling superior, like fewer moving parts kind of idea. Boy, those were the days when ignorance was ignorance.
In this world of competing sorrows, I think of cancer as a mad, suicidal parasite. Its deranged energy, a parody of the life force, with only one goal: to die. But we know how often we've invited that parasite in. Cancer, the crab, though known to the ancients, had to wait for the Industrial Revolution before it came into its own. Among William Blake's dark satanic mills, it found its breeding ground. What we've done to the earth, we have done to ourselves as well. But the earth itself, Whitman's Earth of Departed Sunsets, Hopkins' Sweet Earth with Landscapes Throng, is not a fair or a gentle mother. Nature does go awry. And perhaps the most awful, if less deadly diseases, involve the body's betrayal of itself.
What happened to me is I lost my sight. And it was a piercing pain, so every time I looked to the side or something, it was very painful. So I decided I had an eye infection, so I went to the eye doctor. And actually, he's the one that said, you know, you have a 50-50 chance of having MS. And I walked out, and I was in total shock.
I find nowadays that many people already suspect that that's the diagnosis. So I'll often begin by asking people, so what do you think the problem might be? And they'll often say, well, I was wondering if it might be MS, because they've done some reading on the internet or something. So often they already are kind of prepared in a sense. So I'm able to tell them that, in fact, yes, it is multiple sclerosis. That's what we've found with the tests that we've done and so on.
It was Dr. Price, and just, he didn't want to say anything. He said, it could possibly be the MS. We'll send you away for an MRI. We went to Calgary to get that, and it was confirmed, and I didn't deal with it very well at the beginning.
I talk about the fact that it's due to damage to myelin in the central nervous system, so the brain, the spinal cords, and the optic nerves, which are really part of the brain. And so what happens is that typically people get areas of damage to myelin due to inflammation, which comes sporadically. So they're fine, and then all of a sudden something hits them either in the spinal cord, in the brain, the optic nerve. And depending where the trouble is, it can cause many different types of symptoms. So it could be loss of vision in one eye, it could be double vision, it could be dizziness, it could be numbness. And having said that, you know, everyone who has numbness or dizziness doesn't have MS, although many of them are worried that they do. But these are some of the ways in which an MS attack can flare up.
Is it a painful disease?
Sometimes it can be. For other people it is. I mean, my legs just they'll get tingly and numb. But I don't have the symptoms that a lot of other people do. I'm very lucky.
And typically, things come in attacks, so the person's relatively well, and then over the course of a few days and lasting for 2 or 3 weeks, typically, they have something happen neurologically to them, and they have some symptoms. MS is a very variable illness, you know, and there are some people who have 2 or 3 attacks in their whole lifetime, and that's all that ever happens, and it's never much more than a nuisance. In people like that, it's often the worry that something worse might happen that's worse than anything that ever really does happen to them. So that's one group, and on the other hand, you have people where the MS is very aggressive, very quickly. They develop a lot of disability.
Does part of you live in dread that it'll come back?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have a little tinge or something, and it is a hard thing to explain, but it is a fear for me that I'm not going to be able to go play with my daughter. I will be in a wheelchair, but that's with anything. And you just try and, you know, come on, buck up, let's get going, and you only live your day to day. MS isn't a death sentence. God only gives you what you can handle. I've been told, and I guess it's true. Sometimes you wonder why he gives you that, but it's a reason maybe because I'm helping other people.
Is that part of the way you deal with it, by getting involved like that?
Oh, yeah, because I'm not only helping myself, but I'm helping everyone else. And that's, to me, and making awareness to explain to them that you're going to go through, why me? You're going to be angry. And that is normal, because you're dealing with something that is life-altering. And talk to people, talk to the society. They have professionals there that help deal with what you're actually going through. And try and get a support system around you, your family and your friends. That's what makes it. It truly is. And if you have the support around you, that's the best medicine.
You know, the idea nowadays is that you need to have, first of all, the right genetic makeup to get MS, that some people are protected, they're very unlikely to get MS, but that there's something that has to happen probably during childhood that later triggers MS. The further away from the equator you grow up, the more likely you are to develop MS. So in the Northern Hemisphere, people in Canada have a lot of MS. There's more MS here than there is in the United States or Mexico, for example. So it seems that it's something that happens during childhood that you're more subject to if you live far away from the equator. But what that something is it a viral infection? Is it any one of a number of viral infections at some stage in development? Does it have something to do with light exposure and hence vitamin D? That's where we get our vitamin D, from sunlight. Well, nobody's really sure. Some people even wonder if it might be maternal vitamin D levels during the pregnancy, before we're even born, that might be what plays a role. You know, beyond that, there's lots of ideas being looked at, and someday somebody's going to figure it all out and get a Nobel Prize for it, but we're not there yet.
Why do you think there is this amazing public sense that this matters, that we can get together and fight for it?
Because everyone knows someone with it. They do. And I think it touches everyone. It really does. And I think because I don't have a wheelchair or a cane to walk in, and people are like, well, you're healthy. I am now, but I don't know what tomorrow is. And I want to fight for the people that are in a wheelchair and a scooter. And if we can help them, either stop it in their tracks, give them the best life they could have.
But you think tomorrow is going to bring a cure?
Oh, it's got to. It has to.
There's a novel by Philip Jose Farmer in which a man travels through every known land, haunted by a question that no one seems able to answer. At last, on a remote mountainside, he finds the old sage he's been searching for. Why are we born to suffer and to die, he asks. And the old man says, why not? Now, is that deep wisdom or a smug sophomoric cop-out? Up here in the illusion of geological time, it may seem to make sense. But down below where we actually live, the human heart does not let go so easily. Hope is the last best gift of the gods. It does spring eternal to the human breast. It has moved mountains.